Welcome to the Stop Digging Community Podcast, powered by the nonprofit A² Lamp Groups. I'm Christina, a joyful founding board member since 2014. Your truly unique self-development journey begins today with the first step. Stop digging.
Welcome back to the next episode of Stop Digging with A² Lamp Groups. And we have a couple of guests that we are excited to have today. This is our December episode. So as we're all heading into the holidays, we're looking at parties and family and all kinds of good stuff. We hope that your celebrations are safe. We hope your celebrations are fun. And we hope that they're not as stressful as you would like them not to be. So we have trends about drinking. And let me tell you, there's a big difference between alcoholism, abuse, and social drinking. Please use alcohol to your level. Some of the trends for the alcohol industry, which is one of those industries that's considered recession proof in a sense, because when the downturn of an economy goes, people seek comfort. And so we're looking at a very steady industry, but a very discerning industry. So we're looking at quality now. And one of the top trends right now is agave-based spirits. And we are so pleased to have two business owners right now who are on the cutting edge of that trend. And they have a high-end product that we're going to talk about. You can see all of the research in our Stop Digging LinkedIn group. And so I urge you to check that out. And Chris, I would love for you to just get us started. Thank you.
I'm excited to meet you guys because I'm always interested when you have somebody who's an optical engineer. Is that what I would get, Brian? Who is now partnering up with someone to get a high-end tequila. So I'm always kind of interested how people make their transition into being entrepreneurs. And particularly I'm interested in how you two met, the origin story, and what attracted you. What do you say, wow, this is going to be interesting? That's something that I want to get into. So why don't we start with Brian? Why don't you tell us, how'd you guys meet and what got you excited? What was the vision that said, yeah, I want to get involved with this?
Brevin was one of my neighbors and we had mutual friends, but we hadn't spent very much time together. But one auspicious day back in 2018, I came across Brevin at a local watering hole and eatery, and he informed me that he was getting involved in building a company to create this new high-end tequila. And having spent a lot of time in Mexico over the previous 30 years, I wasn't impressed that this gringo could actually produce a product worthy of claims, but he had a little sample with him, and it literally blew my mind. This is the best tequila I've ever had. That's crazy. And so about a year later, when he was getting ready to bottle, I put my money where my mouth was and became an investor and went down to help with the bottling, and the rest is history.
Nice.
Is that about right, Brevin?
Now, this is where we get the real story from Brevin. All right, so Brevin, what really happened?
No, that's about what happened.
Yeah. Our children went to the same schools, and
yeah, that's how we met, got that part of it going.
So then what made you make the leap to whatever you were doing before to going into a high-end tequila? So maybe a little background for you might be helpful.
So I was in advertising for many years, the high-end fashion, celebrity shot campaigns all over the world. And part of that, I would help my clients build out their voice, basically help them build their brand. And I have a background in business and physics, and I knew at some point I wanted to have my own business. Even though I had my own business there, at that time I was kind of like a doctor. I'm only getting paid when I'm working. The money was pretty good, but you can't get paid when you're sleeping. And there's really no way to build up equity in that business. And back in 2000, what year was this? So my son was born in 2007, and in 2008, we hit that big recession, depression, whatever you want to call it. Marketing and advertising was the first thing to go. And I've got this newborn and went from making in a year to what I was making in a month. I'm like, no more. Can't. And so I didn't get out of it back then, but I started looking. So fast forward to, it's probably 2011, 2010, 2011. I just finished a campaign down in Brazil, and I'm on the flight back. And little backstory here, there's a Brazilian fashion line called Osklen. It's Osklen. And they have, it's men's and women's stuff, but they have these shoes, or at least they did then, that were high-end leather sneakers. They're like tennis shoes, but you can dress them up. And they're really nice, very comfy. And so I always got one or two pairs every time I was down there. I'm flying back and sitting next to this guy, and we start chopping it up. It's a almost 10-hour flight back. And I'm usually like just this, like on the planes, leave me alone. And so he turns out he was a doctor and one of the top orthopedic doctors in the world. And he was actually flying to Vail to the Stedman Clinic to give a lecture. You can tell what level he was on, because at the time, that's where I think Kobe had his knee surgery there. All the athletes were getting all their surgery there, right? And he was going to teach the doctors. And I have a background in sports, so we were just chopping it up. About an hour and a half into the flight, he goes, "Oh, by the way, nice shoes." And so I started selling him on these shoes. I'm like saying how they're the greatest thing and blah, blah, blah. And he's, yeah, Osklen. Os for Oscar, Lem for Leonard. I'm Leonard. I was like, no shit. Sorry.
Don't need to edit that one out. We're good.
Yeah, we're good. So tell us how, because the tequila piece.
Yeah, it's in here.
Oh, okay.
And so that kind of blew my mind. He's a top doctor in the world, but him and his brother started this fashion brand that had stores in Brazil, New York, Paris, Tokyo, all over the place. And so we started talking business, and he told me how they started their company. Mm-hmm. And from them getting to how they started, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with Brazil, but there's a little beach town kind of outside of Rio called Búzios. They opened a clothing store selling ski jackets in Búzios. Búzios is a surf town. It doesn't get colder than 75 degrees. all the gringos would come down, surf, and then pop over to Chile and ski. Mm-hmm. So they created this little, and that's how they kind of launched their company. And I don't even know if they sell ski jackets anymore. But so we started talking business, and I told him my story and how I was looking for something. I said, no, what I wanted to do when I grew up. And so he was telling me all these different, he told me a story about a friend of his that he grew up with. And the family was pretty wealthy, Brazilian family. They basically own the equivalent of Targets in Brazil. The name starts with an L. I can't remember the exact name, but so he inherited this, hated the business, so he sold it. And I don't know how old he was at the time, but fairly young. And I want to say this is probably back in the 80s or 90s. I don't know the exact time frame. He started traveling the world and researching the wealthiest people in each country. Now, this was before the whole tech boom and all that, right? And he came to find out it was basically spirits and beer producers. And so this guy started...
Who knew, right?
Yeah, who knew? This guy started buying beer companies. That was his thing. So he bought all these beer companies, and he was the guy that owned Anheuser-Busch. One out of every 3 beers sold in the world was his, worth $100 billion or something. Mm-hmm. He lives in Europe now. That was his childhood friend. And that story planted the seed. I was sitting there on that plane. I'm like, I love tequila. Like, why not? And that's what planted the seed. And I took the next several years learning about it, learning the different processes, all the different techniques you can use to create it, learning about the liquor industry as a whole. And then also coming up with the brand, coming up with the bottle design, the logo design, and then also going down to Mexico and meeting different families, figuring out who I wanted to partner with on that side of it. Because I don't know if tequila, there's only about 200 licensed facilities in the world that produce all the tequila in the world. So you have
Not something that's common knowledge, at least to me.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And probably 95% of them are in the state of Jalisco. There's a couple other states in Mexico that can have them, but you can't just go start a distillery. So you usually partner with a family that has a distillery, then that type of thing. All this took several years. You know, the bottle, I've got one here. This thing took about 3 years to produce, from coming up with the concept, the design, modifications, till when we actually had one, finished bottle. And a lot of that was on the design process, going back and forth with the 3D designers down in Mexico. That's a whole nother story in itself. They said we couldn't do it several times, and we had to just work through it. But so fast forward, we finally launch, get our first batch up here, crosses the border March 3rd of 2020, clears the warehouse March 12th of 2020, which I believe was a Thursday. So that's when we could start fulfilling orders from Four Seasons, Larson Steakhouse, Rick's Cabaret. That night, I can still see it. Mark Cuban sitting at the side of the court when the NBA shut down, and he was looking at his friend. And the next day was Friday. All the orders got canceled. So after all this time, all the orders got canceled because the NBA just shut down on Thursday night. Then COVID hits.
Oh, dear.
Then the funny thing is, we had submitted our plot to the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, which is kind of like the Super Bowl of spirits competitions, which was the weekend before, but they didn't announce the winners until that weekend. And we found, so product is available. We're able to fulfill orders on Thursday, get orders in, all the orders get canceled on Friday. That Sunday, we found out that our Plaza won double gold at San Francisco, which means all the judges have to give it a gold. What's up?
That sounds good.
Oh, it was great. The world was shut down.
Yeah. One thing that's coming out in your story, Brevin, is how much you had to stick to it. From the idea of, okay, the simple idea, I like tequila, I can do this. That sounds simple, but you described years of preparation and research and experimentation and designing a bottle that it takes 3 years to do that. And then you did everything right. And there's still something that happened. And COVID caught us all off guard, but you seem like you guys had a lot of agility in that. What did you do to spin that? How did you come off of that?
So what I told you?
We're not like a Terramana could launch during COVID because they had a massive war chest, and a lot of everybody thinks that one's the Rock, but there's a lot of industry people behind that as well. We couldn't do that because we just didn't have that war chest. So we had to just slowly do it one bottle at a time. And so we delayed it. And towards the end of 2020, we started selling through online retailers like Touch and Modern and some of those things. And during that time, there would be, because everything was shut down, you couldn't really go into a restaurant. So how can you learn about a tequila from a bartender if a restaurant shut down? So we use things like the Touch and Modern. And the good thing with them is, I don't know if they're flash sales, but they do flash sales to where they'll only sell your tequila for 4 or 5 days. And then you'll come off and then they'll only sell another one. So it helps to brand and market it at the same time. And then going into 2021, we got distribution in Hawaii, which was never on our radar. It was never part of our launch plan at all. But it just happened. And the good thing with Hawaii, it was tough to get there because you had to go have all the vaccination cards and this and that. But once you were there, everything is pretty much open. they limited it. I think you could only have 5 people at the table or something, but at least it was open, right? And so then we just slowly worked through it and started building up distribution. And 2023 we got approved into some Total Wines, and so we're still in the phase where we're still building out distribution, and within that building out our points of distribution within each market. So it's a process.
I'm excited to hear your story because so often when I work with startups, the idea of going from the idea to launch, there's a lot of work that goes in between and a lot of pivoting and a lot of the things that you were describing, just the agility of having to, the ups and downs, disappointment, elation, like all of those emotions going on too. I can't even imagine. A hard launch turns into a soft launch. Eventually move out. And so I remember because I know Brian and during the soft launch, that was, I think, only the second time I'd ever tasted tequila, to be honest. So I feel a little bit spoiled because I got the top end. I've never had anything like that. And your product is very high quality. So,
Thank you.
all of that work, it does pay off and it shows up in the bottle. But people don't always know all of the hard work that goes into the bottle.
Yeah. And it's never a straight line. And I think anytime you try and create something, if you go into it knowing it's not going to be a straight line, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. But as long as, you're moving and you're going to get knocked down. It's guaranteed. You're going to get knocked down multiple times. But if you can keep getting back up, then you got a chance. If you don't get back up, you don't got a chance.
I think that's probably the lesson here for our listeners here is, look, you started out with hey, I've got a child and I want to have something that I can leverage and maybe spend more time with them. And then I also have a passion. And then let's just say situations came up that kind of fueled that passion. Maybe that's the best way to put it. And then you had the perseverance. So these are the kind of things that I think people want to know as how do you get to a point where we're successful? Because we're not going to, we can see your end product and we can see the beautiful bottle and we can see maybe an NBA player drinking it or somebody else endorsing it or saying it's their favorite tequila. But knowing that the fact that you started almost flipping 20 years ago, right, and you're working through these kind of things, it's good for people to know that you better what you're doing a little bit or have a passion for it to make it be successful because of exactly what you said. You're going to hit things that, like, you don't have control over a global pandemic that's going to impact your industry.
Well,
So my question is, so Brian, when did you step into this process? So we've got I would assume that having an engineer on board is not bad because then they can go through some of the processes and let's call it scaling it up.
Going back to the earlier discussion, a big part of what sustained us through this is the product itself. Very few people that tequila is actually a delicious liquor when it's made properly. And Brevin, I think, has taken that to a new level. And so if we're having a bad day, we can always go and pull out a little sample and it'll get us through almost anything.
So I actually have a funny story about the bottle.
Yeah.
There's one. All right. So we were sitting at Brian's house during COVID, getting through one of those times. And so this is the bottle that was the original
prototype. Yeah.
And so if you look at it, the facets aren't as defined. The label's not inset. This is the one that took 3 years to get. And so we're sitting there and Brian's, it's a beautiful bottle and this and that. And I'm just like, it's not what I wanted. And if I would have got Mexico to do what I wanted, I'd probably still be waiting on the glass. Like, we would have never gone there. So it's like one of those things where at some point you've got to when you're launching something, not everything's going to be perfect. You have to move forward with the minimal viable product at some point. And in this case, it was the glass. It just wasn't what I wanted. So we're sitting there having little conversation over a glass, and he was like, what do you want it to be? So I explained it to him, And I'm like, I want more defined facets. I want the label inset, and on the back too, have it inset. And he's, oh, my guys can do that. Mine could do that. 5 days later, the 3D mold or the 3D design was done. And about 10 days, we had a plastic prototype. I'm like, are you serious?
You're just letting the people know that having an engineer on your team is not a bad idea. They're problem solvers.
It's the right engineer team. And it's easy to get the guy that'll turn a task into a career or a 3-year project. I just happen to know the guy that will take a task and complete that task in a very timely manner and with a high level of fidelity and produce a prototype in plastic.
What I love is that you guys having a partner maybe helps you laugh through some of those hard times.
Oh, you gotta learn.
Or drink yourself through
partially or both, because I can't even imagine the pressure of providing for your family and launching your entrepreneurial business. And if you're by yourself, the ups and downs, it's like you live in your head. Who do you share that with? Who do you that's a lot of pressure on one human being for a sustained amount of time.
A little story. So I grew up on a ranch in Colorado. When I was coming up with the brand, the Vuelo del Aviador means flight of the aviator. So my dad was a pilot just for fun. I had a little Cessna, something like that. And my mom hated it. And so when I was a kid, he used to take me to school. And we go up flying, go check on the cows, maybe stop at a little town nearby, have lunch, come back. And my mom never knew about this. It was our little bonding time together. And it was great. I learned more on those flights than I probably did in the whole time I would have been in school. And so he passed of ALS back in 2008. So when I was coming up with the name, I wanted it to be in honor of him. And so that's where I got the name from, Flight of the Aviator. But when you mentioned the laughing aspect of it, growing up on a ranch, stuff always goes wrong. It very rarely goes right. You're almost shocked when it does. It's, something's going to happen, but you have to laugh. My family homesteaded Colorado. This has been, you got to learn how to laugh. And I remember one time, my dad had got so frail to where it's hard for him to even swallow. And he had choked on his saliva, and we had to call 911 to send the ambulance to get him. And so I'm sitting with him on just the edge of the bed, holding him up. And it was a struggle just for him to breathe. Because he had fluid there that he couldn't. And he looked at me and he just started laughing. It's like, even when you're fake, you got to laugh. It's the only way to get through it.
Yeah, I might have to pull up a slide after the thing here. I have it in one of my leadership development classes, and it says, humor is a part of leadership. It's a part of getting things done. And I'll show it to you guys when we start the second session. But it's a picture of Dwight D. Eisenhower, guy on the dime, and Richard Nixon cracking each other up. That for me is just such a shock to my persona, because Nixon kind of one way, I'm not a crook, and Eisenhower, all I know is that really what currency he's on. So to see their personality and them saying that's part of it. And I do. Having been somebody who's worked in corporate, I'm always like, look, you gotta laugh because things do go wrong. And I think this is another important part, is that people have to understand that you have to ready yourself for things to go wrong, and just be like, we're going to figure out how to get through it, or have the determination to get through it, which is really a key point for anyone who wants to learn a lesson from what you guys are doing. Yeah.
Hello, friends. Thanks for listening. A Squared Lamp Groups powers this podcast. Their memberships are tax-deductible donations that directly support their work developing people and organizations. But just for you, they're offering podcast listeners a special 40% off coupon code to join. Your benefits as a member include additional resources, perks, and access that you can use all year, including an additional 30 minutes of bonus podcast content for every episode. Simply use the code 4listeners at checkout. That's the number 4, all caps, listeners at checkout. They also are giving our listeners free gifts to use now. Go to their website,
a2lamps.org/podcast and download your free My Success Course of Action worksheet. There is no cost, registration, or sales pitch involved. Just click it and save. Use it to work on something significant to you this month, maybe even something that sparks interest from today's podcast. Then click to join our free but private Stop Digging Podcast LinkedIn group, where the conversation continues between you, the hosts, and our guests. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends. And now, back to the program.
Yeah. For me, my role is to support the guy at the top, help him with production, a little Spanish translation at time, financial support, sales support, and just moral support, because this is not easy. I've managed programs and led them and running my own consulting company for years. There's not a lot you can rely on, but if you have team members that are there to support you, then that just makes everything a lot better. And we share this journey for 6 years now, 7 years.
No, and we call it the Vuelo family because we've been blessed with some very influential investors and shareholders and people that want to see the same win. And we've got almost like a Hall of Fame shareholder group from different aspects of everything. So it's a really fun group. And because at the end of the day, you're going to have, it's not a battle, it's a war. And you're going to lose some battles and you're going to win some, and you can't get too up on those. You got to try and stay level and just keep moving.
Now, I'm going to assume something here, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong. And that is that all of this is possible because you put out a high quality product. So, if you have something that people go, wow, that's the best tequila I ever had, and I'm a tequila drinker, you are going to connect with people on a level that is hard to get by just speaking to them.
Yes.
I think the lesson for me, at least that I'm taking away from this, is having a high quality product will get you through a lot of these challenges, and will also get you those, what does Simon Sinek said, the early adopters, right? You want those people who are going to get in the trenches with you or say, look, I'm here for you to win. I'm here for us to win. I love what you're doing. I'm invested. And then hopefully this will follow that natural curve up to where it gets to the point where things are even better than where they are right now. So I just want to point out, with your story, what are those kind of key things that people need to understand that make people successful? One, you got to have a passion for it, and having a high quality product are really important pieces to it, because that says a lot more than anything you're going to say as far as to sell someone. Being able to show them and have them taste it and experience it.
Yeah.
So
I would definitely,
well done.
I definitely want to say, though, that one of the most enjoyable parts of participating in this is when I do the talking, tell somebody what we have and they should try it. And then they try it and are just blown away. They're like, it's never imagined tequila was this good. And then I don't have to sell them anymore. They're sold for life. Try the product.
A little bit like you.
And
right? You tried it and you were like, wow, this is a fantastic product.
So exactly, to share that experience with other people and just see them light up. Those who love tequila or those who never liked it, try it for the first time, try real tequila. And are just like, oh my God, I had no idea that tequila was like this.
Tell me about the quality, because how do you know it's a good quality? I'm not a tequila expert, but like, what are some things that you look for? And also,
more importantly, what do you guys do?
Yeah, exactly. But also other things affect the taste. I think I remember hearing that the glass you put it in can even change the taste. So how do you make sure that?
Back to the marketing piece real quick. Coming from a background in marketing and helping people build their own voice and brands and that type of thing, I was probably jaded a little bit in that unless you're going to throw gobs of money about it, like most of it doesn't work. And I can only think of bad words right now.
Well, it's I think
We'll
you're
use
saying
our
it.
imagination. We'll fill them in for you.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
okay.
and
You
it-
get instant credibility once they taste the tequila.
and so there's a lot of, not just in the liquor space, but just in PG in general, where the quality's not there. It's just all marketing, and it works, but you have to put so much money behind it to have it sustain and have it do anything. And so when I set out to do this, my grandma, when I was little, she used to, I was out on the ranch with her, we'd be in the kitchen after I'd help my grandpa with chores, and she'd teach me how to cook and this and that. And it always took long. It would take all day, but then you just get this quality and you're like, oh, it's so good. And so when I set out to create the tequila, there's different processes that will yield different flavors, different results, that type of thing. So going back to spending that time in the kitchen with my grandma, you can't do it fast. It takes time. It's inefficient. And so we use those kind of old school techniques. And when to correlate it to cooking like that, when you do that in cooking, you use high quality ingredients, you take your time, it usually yields something very tasty. Looking at it from a science perspective, you simplify it. High quality ingredients. So we let the agaves fully mature. They're all estate grown agaves. We're not buying them out on the secondary market, on the commodities market. They're estate grown. So we have control over them. And we're not mass producing this, so we can take some time. We're not like a Jose Cuervo or something where they're just throwing tequila constantly out the door. So most tequilas, once it's harvested, all tequila, you have to cook the agave. You have to cook so there's different processes to cook it. Most of the mass produced stuff is in an autoclave, which is a big kind of pressure cooker. Mm-hmm. Or they'll use a diffuser, which essentially turns tequila almost into vodka. Gets everything out of the pina, even the stuff that you don't want out of it. So we turn to the more traditional approach where it's slow cooked in clay ovens. It takes, instead of a couple hours, it takes a few days. So it's a much longer process. And then the Tohono mill, and it's fermented in these wooden vats and twice distilled in copper pots. Each step along the way, takes longer and it's less efficient, but it yields a much higher quality product.
So how long does it take to get from the agave all the way to the bottle? Because that sounds like a pretty labor time intensive process.
So for a bottle of Plata or Blanco or Silver, whatever you want to call it, the agaves are growing for anywhere from 7 to 9 years. Then,
wow.
And then once you harvest,
I like to tell people you can't make fine wine out of green grapes. You cannot make fine tequila out of agaves that are not fully mature. That's 7 to 9 years.
Yeah. And now a lot of the mass produced stuff gets pulled at 4 or 5. And the sugar levels just aren't there. There's some lawsuits out there regarding some big brands that supposedly they were pulling their agaves so early that they had to add sugar cane to the distillate. But we won't speak on that.
No, but the quality that goes into it means that it's very labor intensive, and for very small quantities.
It takes time and patience. Yeah.
And how long does it age for? When you get it in the bottle, does it age?
So our Plata, Blancos, Platas, they can't really be aged. I think the max on it is 30 days in the barrel. Ours doesn't touch a barrel. But we let it rest in stainless steel for about 4 months after it's distilled, just so it's like cooking pasta. You let it mellow out a little bit. Our reposado most repos are about 3 months. Ours is 9 months. Most añejos are a year. Ours is 2 years. So the whole process, we just take more time and more patience. So we have an edition out right now. It's a double barrel reposado. So that was in basically 2 different barrels. So it was in red wine barrels for 9 months. Then we pulled it out of there and we got some 15-year bourbon barrels. And we finished it in the bourbon barrels for about 2 months. So it's a 11-month reposado. And it tastes better than most extra añejos, in my opinion. It just has this depth and this complexity and
balance.
Yeah, it's balanced nicely.
You've actually had people tasting it, not just people like me who never had it before and are sold on it, but you've also had some very famous people who know their tequilas and have been very complimentary of your product. I don't know if you can say who they are or not. I don't necessarily want to bring you down that path if you don't want to go, but tell us generally where these people are and all of these tequila drinkers.
Is it Luca? Is it Luca?
We were on 2 NBA championship parades back to back a couple of years ago, and
I'm trying to think which one.
Because one of the parades was sponsored by one of those big name ones that you see everywhere.
Okay.
But the players had the bottles of Vuelo, and they're on the state capitol with the trophy and the Vuelo, and they're taking the team picture holding up bottles of Vuelo.
I'm going to look for that. So I'll be, if you can't say it, I'll do a little due diligence on the back end here.
Yeah, Chris is really into basketball and sports, so he will find it for sure. How did that feel? That must have been a big win. Anybody?
Yeah, that was very cool. That was very cool. And I have a background in basketball, so it's fun to see it grow like that. And we've got a lot of on the music side as well, some music icons. And one of my friends, I've known him for a while, was a music icon, and he's same thing. He had it with his wife during COVID and called me up there and was like, hey, is there room for me? I'd love to invest in this. And he came on. And so it's fun, just the whole kind of family version of it. Like everybody's connected because of this bottle, right? It brings people together.
I would respectfully disagree with you in one way. And I mean it. It's the quality and the care that you put into it that ends up with an end product that people like.
That's what I mean by this bottle.
Yeah, just to be clear on it, like the long timelines to taking the care to make sure that it's a high-end product. And I think, again, as far as like our audience is concerned, is if you put out a high-quality product, you are going to find people that are going to be your advocate. And it can be tequila, or it can be like the sneakers that you were talking about earlier. If you do that, then there will people who come out and will want to be your advocates or your early adopters. And in this instance, you happen to hit some people that say, what do they say? Luck favors the prepared. If you're prepared to meet these people and you have a high-end product that they're interested in, that's not luck. That's being prepared for that moment. And because of the due diligence you did on the end, because of quality and what you cared about the product, and being able to do all those things that take more time but result in a higher quality product, that's what causes people to do it. So I just wanted to make sure that they weren't, it wasn't just the drink that was it. It was all the passion that you've put into it and your team has put into it, and the care that you put into it is what makes that bottle so impressive, let's say.
Yeah. Thank you.
And it doesn't hurt when you get some big names who actually like your product too. I know I heard one of the names and from Brian, and I was a little jealous. One of my music icon heroes, but at least
Is it Sting? With Sting and Luca?
No,
Is that what's going on?
I don't think they can share that. But what I will say is that I feel much closer to that person when I have a little taste of your tequila. So.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep throwing out names until I see you guys react. I'll go, oh, that's the one.
the gotcha interview. But yeah, so I'm super impressed with not just the quality of it, but how much passion and perseverance it takes to go through. I work with people who have great ideas and they want to turn their ideas into something real, whether it's a vision for their own life or a vision for a product that something burns inside of them. They got to get it out. And what you described is a very practical, real process. And you seem to have made a really good choice by focusing on the quality. That's actually the fastest growing industry in the alcohol trends right now are agave products, and not just any products, but people are going toward quality. You have exactly the right niche at the right time in the right place, and all of that endurance hopefully pays off for you. What's the next step for you both?
We've got some stuff we're trying to roll out next year.
New flavors?
No,
No candy cane tequila flavors or anything like that.
No.
All right.
I think overall is just keep making steps, keep moving forward. And there's that old saying that a journey starts with the first step, right? And it continues with multiple steps. I think when anybody's trying to launch something or start something, I honestly think the first step's the easiest step. It's when you're miles down the road, you got mud all over your shoes and it's raining on you and you're freezing, that's when the hardest step is.
That sounds like a guy who grew up on a ranch or on a farm.
I was going to say, I guess you got prepared, right?
Yeah. And that's not mud.
Yeah, exactly.
Not on the ranch.
So we're getting close to the end here. So I just want to put a little fine point on some of the things that we had said so far. And that is, look, if you have a passion about something, you obviously want to pursue it and be prepared for, let's say, some discomfort, some failures, and how quickly you're going to get up. And particularly if you're passionate about something that ends up being a particularly high quality product, you're going to attract people to that. And maybe people you never would have expected. The other thing I want to get from this, because you told your story, and I just want to make sure that people understand this. You never know who you're going to talk to, what you're going to learn from them, or what kind of connection you're going to make. So here you are on a plane flying back, and you run into someone who then accelerates. Let's put an accelerant on your idea already. And so these are the kind of moments that as someone who wants to be an entrepreneur or be a leader, these are the things that you have to take advantage of. And so I really encourage people to listen to the story and listen for what the lessons are in it. And I got one thing to share with you. Can I share my screen? Because I had a moment here. I just wanted to see if I could pull this up for you.
You can. And to our listening audience, I'll do my best to describe the screen.
Okay, I'm going to go with window. Here we go. Share. Can you guys see that?
Yeah. Okay. So he's flashing up on the screen, and it's off of his stand-up success website. A sense of humor is part of the art of leadership, of getting along with people, of getting things done. That quote is by Dwight D. Eisenhower. And it's just what he described. Two men, worlds apart, just yucking it up and laughing. And I think laughter is how we get through difficult times. It's good to have people with you. Brevin, do you have any staff with you now, or how many people are working for you?
No, not right now. We've got a bunch of shareholders that help us get through. We're working on something for next year, but
so you're still modeling it all yourself. You're doing a lot of the distilling and the testing and the chemistry involved.
And the distillery has their crew down there that for the bottling line and all that type of stuff.
Right.
One thing, once we got, this was pre-launch, so it's back in 2019. We had the bottles, we had the glass, and we had bottled some kind of a handful of kind of sample bottles. This was before our first production run. And I was doing a campaign back down in Brazil, and so I reached out to Leonard. We had stayed in touch during this whole time, but this is 8-9 years later. And so we met up for dinner, and I brought the bottle, put it on the table. And so like the guy that inspired it, one of the first bottles with him down in Brazil, down in Rio.
Oh, wow.
That is a great kind of pulling it around full circle for us. I think that's probably a great place to end on. And just think of that. There's this person who inspires you on a plane, you're not expecting it, and then you get to come back to him and go, you were one of the drivers that made this happen. And again, I don't necessarily believe in serendipity. I had a good friend who played professional football, and I told him one time I was lucky, and he goes, you weren't lucky, you were prepared.
Yeah.
You were prepared for that situation and you took action. And that kind of is what could be a summary of your whole story, right? You had a passion and you kept taking action until you gotten to this point. So good for you. Kudos to you. And gentlemen, what a pleasure talking to you. I was excited about it. I wanted to see how this was going to play out because what two kind of different backgrounds, but I could see what you guys share a passion for a high quality product. And apparently some other people do. Luca, Sting, those guys.
Stop fishing, Chris. I know how you're going. I know you. All right. I will say is I want to make sure we share your website. We definitely want to get that in and look for our posts because we're going to try to tag them. We'll tag you and follow A Squared Lamps and we'll post something about the episode and don't miss the episode. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. So let's share the website. Brevin or Brian?
You got the
Oh, you want us to say it?
Tequila.com?
Hold up the
Type it on
bottle.
there.
That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Oh, it only works for people that are watching. It's not
Well,
working for all of our
We
listeners.
can spell it out for them. Say it again, please.
Tequila.com. So it's VUELO, the word tequila.com. So check it out. They have beautiful photos on there. I can tell you used to be in advertising. It's like beautiful photos of these bottles and you'll get to see. And now that you look at the bottles, listeners, now you know all of the stuff that goes into them. The partnership, the passion, the perseverance. Any other P words you can think of, Chris?
I'm sorry, you put me on the spot. The only ones that came up into my mind were the ones that that I can't repeat here. So I'm
just keeping you on your toes. Okay, so thank you. And if you're a member of A Squared Lamp Groups, stay tuned. We're going to have our bonus content coming up. And for the rest of you, thank you, listeners. We appreciate you, and we hope you learned something.
Hi, this is Chris, podcast team coordinator for A Squared Lamp Groups. Thank you for listening and subscribing to the Stop Digging Community Podcast. Keep the conversation going. Search for the Stop Digging group on LinkedIn and don't miss out on our next episode.